What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. My name is Aaron, and I'm delighted to be joined here today by Mathew Hurley from the GAA Statsman Podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing the Cork Footballers and Hurlers. We'll be discussing the Hurlers. That video will be out on Thursday. We're just going to be discussing the Footballers here today. And yeah, of course, I'm joined by Mathew for this preview. Of course, I'm going to be doing a number of previews now over the coming weeks, discussing a number of different counties, breaking things down ahead of the upcoming national hurling and football leagues. So do stay tuned, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But I suppose first of all, Mathew, great to have you on. How's things with yourself? I'd imagine you're absolutely buzzing. I suppose that the GAA is coming closer to a return anyway.
You're grand, Darren. Thanks for having me on once again on your channel. Yeah, just so excited for the GAA to be back. In all honesty, once the Six Nations ended, that was so entertaining. And once that ended that week, I was just like, please, can I just have the GAA back? Like soccer, kind of getting sick of it, like yourself at the moment. But I suppose Reeling in the Years was on last night, and Cork won the All-Ireland in 2010. So great memories there. Yeah, I suppose just so excited the GAA has to return now and bring on the championship.
Yeah, I suppose 2010. I imagine you still have fond memories from that anyway. And I was a Dublin fan. I'm still, well, I suppose it's one of the only times really in the past 10 years that, Dublin have been beaten. But I suppose I'd imagine that's still long in the memory anyways.
Absolutely brilliant game. All right. So I actually didn't go to that game. I couldn't get a ticket, but agree with the TV that day. It was just amazing that whole day. I was 9 at the time, but still I could remember it like yesterday. Man, it was just unbelievable that we won that game. And it's unbelievable the fact it was 11 years ago and the Cork men's haven't won an All-Ireland since. We got to a hurling final in 13, didn't really get close to the end of Clare, but haven't got to an All-Ireland final since. And hopefully that'll be rectified now in the next few years, because to be honest, look at the size of Cork. We should be back at the All-Ireland finals sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll get onto the hurlers in a bit. All right, like definitely when you look at the amount of time that it's taken them since their last All Ireland victory, it's definitely quite interesting. But I suppose we'll start with the footballers, and I suppose obviously I had you on after the Tipperary and the Kerry game last year when you kind of gave your opinion on that. Like, how would you, I suppose, reflect now on Cork's 2020 championship? Obviously, it's a long time past since then.
It's a long time, yeah. I suppose the Tipperary game, I went on your channel, obviously. Maybe I said things, off the cuff a bit and didn't delve into the facts enough. Like, in fairness, we were missing our two cornerbacks when you look back at it. Sean Powter, huge loss. And Kevin Flahive, I was contacted by someone on my Instagram DMs after the game. And Kevin Flahive usually gets a hold of the likes of Quinlivan and Sweetie. I don't know why, but he's a great man marker. And we lost them type of players. Like, I don't think Paul Ring, for example, was ready. He's just come from under 20 level. And I suppose Luke Connolly going off at half time was a huge, huge loss for us. But I suppose it was progress. It was progress. We beat Kerry for the first time since 2012 in the championship. With that, late or not, fluke or not, we won it in the end against Kerry. And I just wonder, like, I even go back to the Connacht Championship around 15 and 16. You look at Mayo, they lost to Galway the next year. That was a huge shock to the system. And then the next year, 2017, you think surely Galway can't do it again and hold. And they did it eventually. They did it, I think, 2 or 3 years on the bounce then. And Mayo didn't win a Connacht title for 5 years. So I'm hoping the same thing happens with Kerry. And honestly, I think I might get made fun of for saying this statement, but I think this will be the most competitive Munster championship in years. You look at 5 teams in it specifically. You look at Kerry, obviously, Cork, obviously, Tipperary. They won the championship last year and shouldn't be forgotten. Clare have a decent side. I know Gary Brennan's out, but they'll be a huge threat. And even the way Limerick played against Tipperary, like, I was watching that game and I thought Limerick should have beat them. Conor Sweeney got them out of jail with that miraculous score at the end. So I think it'll be a very competitive championship, and hopefully Cork come out the right side in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with you as well. Actually, I think the Munster Championship's definitely going to be very competitive. I mean, it could be possible as well that Kerry show up and just comfortably beat everyone. But I think, like, given how last year looked, I think it would be foolish really to think like that, especially after how the championship panned out last year. Would you look at it then as kind of like an opportunity missed still last year in terms of that Munster title, or do you reckon, with Luke Connolly maybe coming back from injury and then Kevin Flahive coming back in as well, and some of the younger lads, that you think maybe winning a Munster title, it might not be this year maybe, but next year, or what do you reckon?
It's going to be hard to beat Kerry once again. Like, we have to mention the fact that if Cork play Kerry in the Munster Championship, it'll be going to Killarney. Cork haven't beaten them in years. We were close in 2015. Probably should have beat them, but for a referee decision that I won't delve in much into at the moment. But yeah, our record at Killarney isn't great, to be honest. Like, our record at Semple Stadium isn't that good against Tipperary. We'll be going there due to a home and away agreement. And even our record in Ennis or any part of Clare since 2013 has been horrendous. So we won't play much matches at home. I think that'll, set the team back a bit. But you have to be confident. You look at the youngsters coming through in 2019, the under-20 talents. Blake Murphy, though, is one player to watch this year, in my opinion. Such an amazing footballer. And I think he'd be kind of a David Clifford type player for us. The player that has that extra skill in the team. And look at our other forwards as well. Look at our senior players, the likes of Mark Collins, Brian Hurley, Luke Connolly, Rory Dean. Wasn't at his best now last year, but hopefully he'll be back to his best in 2021. And even the young players that came in last year, the likes of Cathal O'Mahony, Damien Gore, Brian Hartnett, a few of them players. So hopefully them young players now have got the experience from last year, and players like Mark Cronin and Blake Murphy could come in and cause Kerry or Tipperary a few problems.
And I suppose looking then at the 2021 league, obviously you're in Division 2, obviously paired up in the new group stage format alongside the likes of Kildare, Laois and Clare. I suppose looking in from the outside, it looks like the easier side of the draw, obviously with Mayo and Meath and Westmeath down over on the other side. What do you make of it yourself?
Looks easier, right, Aaron, looking at it from the outside, but as I said, our record in Ennis is absolutely dreadful since 2013. We lost her 3 times, I believe, in the league. We lost once comprehensively. I think that was the year we went down to Division 3. And Clare, they're improving year on year under Colin Collins, despite the loss of Gary Brennan. Like, JB Malone's come back. Even against Kildare, our record against them, even in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, we're facing them in Newbridge this year, but it's going to be a long trip up there, and that could take a toll on the players. And our record against Kildare, both in Championship and League in the last few years, I think is absolutely dreadful as well. But hopefully, as I said, with the young players coming through, we will rectify those wrongs and beat Kildare and Clare. As for Laois, like the last meeting we had in the Championship round forward qualifiers, we beat them quite comprehensively. We played some outstanding football that day. And since then, Laois have lost a few players. I believe, I think Graham Brody's gone abroad or something. Ross Mudley's nearing 40 now. There's a few losses in that team. Sure, there are young players like Mark Barry coming up in centre forward. But I think Cork should beat Laois anyway. I think we're at home. I'm not too sure though. With Ronan McCarthy, I don't know, is home advantage taken away from us? I was hearing some bits of news that it will be. Hopefully it's not, because we probably need a home game in order to get up to Division 1. You look at, can we get in the top 2? I think it's a distinct possibility. Getting second, maybe we should just aim for that. And then, but the thing is, if we finish second, we're most likely to play Mayo in the semi-finals. And to be honest, I think Mayo, despite the retirements, I think they're streets ahead of us. I think we'll have a much better chance if we face Meath. Not that Meath are a bad side or anything, but they're kind of at the younger stage of their development, like us in many ways. So it'll play to our advantage if we can get first in the group, but by no means it'll be easy at all.
And like looking at the fixtures, then obviously like it's Laois first, and then I think Clare. I mean, I'd imagine you'd be confident enough I suppose, with having them two first at least as well, because at least then the Kildare game will kind of, if Kildare win both their games, which isn't a guarantee, but if that's the case, I suppose at least then you could, use that game almost like a pre-season friendly then for the next game. Is that kind of how you're looking at it yourself as well?
I probably wouldn't look at it that way, to be honest. You look at the last game against Kildare, even if Kildare or Cork win their two games, then it's a battle for first place. If we get first place, we'll avoid Mayo, who obviously were all out of finalists the year before, should really be Division 2, but they are. There you go. I suppose just to avoid Mayo, we have to win every game, but obviously it's not going to be a guarantee. I think the main objective is to get top two, just to win those games against Laois and Clare, and by no means, as I said earlier, it's not going to be easy whatsoever given our record against Clare. Laois, I think, to be honest, we should beat them. If we lose or draw to Laois, we're at the back foot already, and it's going to be a huge mountain to climb. Going into the Kildare game then, Kildare, I think in 2020, they had a bit of an off year with the players they have. Like, obviously, they won an under 20 All-Ireland in 2018. And as well as that, Jack O'Connor is the Kildare manager, and I'm sure he'd want to get one over on Cork. Last game he faced against Cork, any team really, was the under 20 final, where Cork absolutely slaughtered Kerry in Park Urin. So Jack O'Connor would definitely want to get revenge on Cork that way. It'll be very interesting coming up against Kildare and Clare once again this year.
And who do you reckon, like in that Cork team, like who do you kind of look to be probably maybe, your top player? Like obviously you've got Luke Connolly in there. Paul Kerrigan's obviously retired, so there's going to be more options for the likes of Blake Murphy and Cathal O'Mahony and a few others. So who do you reckon is probably going to be your top player or marquee forward going into this National League campaign?
If you're looking at marquee forwards, I think the obvious one is Luke Connolly. He's just so consistent. His free taking is unbelievable. And even in pressure situations, you see that against Kerry, took 2 pressure frees and he got them over. As well as that, Mark Collins took a pressure free, in fairness to him, against Kerry. And he just adds that little bit of experience to the side. Brian Hurley wasn't really at his best last year, but the year before he was banging in the goals for us. Michael Hurley coming off the bench is a great asset to have. You look at, as you say, Cathal O'Mahony and Blake Murphy. Damien Gore, I think, is a brilliant young player as well. Yes, Paul Kerrigan's retired. I think that might be a huge loss, given we've only one All-Ireland winner left of the team from the aforementioned 2010 side in Kieran Sheehan, who didn't play much last year, but has recently come back from Australia. Yes, I think Blake Murphy is an excellent young player. Brian Hartnett can play wing forward. And even the midfielders chipping in, like Killian O'Hanlon and Ian Maguire, are great players to drive the team on. Yeah, I suppose it's a great mix of youth and experience we have now. The likes of Mark Collins, as I said, Brian Hurley leading them. And then you have the young exuberant players such as Blake Murphy and Cathal O'Mahony to hopefully get a few goals and points for us in the coming year.
Yeah, I suppose you're not short of forwards anyway, like coming through at the moment. Like there's definitely plenty of talent in Cork, and there'll probably even be 1 or 2 players that we might not even see in the championship this year, probably because the amount of forwards I suppose you have to choose from. I suppose how would you kind of see the other group then kind of playing out? Like obviously Mayo and Meath are probably the obvious favourites. To be honest, I don't really see it that way. I think it's actually going to be very competitive. I think Westmeath, I think they showed when they played Dublin last year that they're a very tough team and they're a tough nut to crack. And I think Down are a bit underrated as well. So how do you kind of see that panning out?
Yeah, I watched that Westmeath game against Dublin. To be honest with you, I thought I was very disappointed with Westmeath. I know they did have to defend against the calibre of players Dublin have, obviously. But with the attacking talent they have, the likes of John Heslin, Luke Loughlin, Kieran Martin, I would have thought Westmeath would have attacked Dublin more, Ray Kennellan in midfield, of course, as well. But I suppose you did have to play to your strengths and catch Dublin in the break somewhat. But I suppose they will play more attacking, more expansive football against the likes of Meath. Like, they have confidence to beat Meath. I know it was 6 years ago, but they're rivals, of course, the Meath rivalry, and maybe that'll produce fire in the belly for the Westmeath lads, and maybe they can beat Meath. As for Down, I don't know about them, to be honest. Like, against Cava, they let a lead slip in the Ulster semi-final. And even in Division 3, I watched Down a few times, and I don't know, they weren't that great, but I suppose they were missing some of the Kilcoo lads, and bringing them back into the side maybe it will be crucial for them. But still, I see Meath and Mayo make it, to be honest. Like, you look at, I know Meath underperformed in many ways against Dublin, that Leinster final, but maybe they were a bit inexperienced. Maybe it was too much to expect from them from the off. The likes of Mathew Costello, Jordan Morris, they're still young talents in that team. And even Mayo, I suppose it won't be that comprehensive. You look at the players Mayo lost. Yes, they didn't start as often as, the likes of the younger players, Tommy Conroy, Owen McLaughlin, etc. But they added, that voice in the dressing room. And I think it reminds me of Cork losing all them players in 2013, the likes of Graham Canty, Pierce O'Neill, Noel O'Leary, and that had a huge effect on Cork 5-6 years down the line. I wonder, will the same happen to Mayo? I doubt it in many ways, but you never know in many ways as well.
Yeah, I think with Meath, I've a sneaky feeling they'll beat Mayo in the group games anyway. Like they have a very highly talented young team. It's hard to really know at the moment how good they are at the same time, because obviously they were playing in Division 1 last year. They were very competitive, and they've had 2 Leinster finals in a row where they really haven't shown up. But I think if they do show up, I think they can definitely give a game to anyone on their day. And I'd love for them to do it, to be honest, because I'd love to see the Dublin and Meath rivalry come back again and be fiercely competitive. I suppose just kind of going through like some general predictions for the league in general. Like, who do you look at, I suppose, as the favourite to win the National League in football, I suppose, this year?
Just to clarify, Aaron, do you mean Division 1 or Division 2?
Division 1, yeah.
Division 1. I think the South side, I think Kerry, I think they'll be gunning for the league in many ways. Dublin, I think, will try out a few players, and their aim is the championship. In many years, Kerry's aim is the league, and that's what brought them down a small bit. Looking at the other two teams, Galway have the potential. I've always said this. They definitely have the potential to upset the likes of Dublin and Kerry. Likes of Mathew Tierney coming through now, and Jack Clean. Galway could cause an upset. I don't want to offend any Roscommon people now, but I'm sorry, I cannot see avoiding the drop, really. Look at the teams, the calibre of the South, the likes of Galway, Kerry and Dublin. I can't see it, to be honest. Then you look up the North. I think Tyrone will upset a few people. I think they look very good. And on the previous episode of my podcast, I had Owen Mulligan on, and he was saying, yes, Mickey Hart was outstanding manager, don't get him wrong now, but the game of football has moved on, and Tyrone need to play their players in their rightful positions. And I think they'll do that now with Brian Dooher and Fergal Logan in charge. The likes of Darragh Canavan, Tiernan Quinn coming through, obviously Conor McKenna, Cathal McShane coming back from injury. Tyrone have an abundance of talent in that team. And I'm hearing as well, Colm Coughlin might be returning from retirement. I'm not too sure about that now. But I think Donegal will be up there as well. For the semi-finals, I think it'll probably be Tyrone against Dublin. Tyrone will win that, in my opinion. I think Dublin, as I said, will rest a few players. Donegal, Kerry, I'm going to say Kerry will win it. And I'm going to say Tyrone will win the league. I think it'll be a huge practice to try and stop Dublin in the actual All-Ireland Championship.
Yeah, I think for when you were saying about Roscommon, first of all, I think I do feel a bit bad for Roscommon. I think if it was an 8-team tournament, like the way the National League normally is, I reckon they would have avoided relegation. I probably would have had our man Monaghan to go down. So I think they're a little bit lucky, or a little bit unlucky in regards to that. And yeah, Tyrone at the moment, like with the players that they have coming through, I suppose the only kind of, thing is, obviously it might take a bit of time. There's no pre-season there. Conor McKenna and Cathal McShane may have played at underage at some point, but it's been a long time anyway since that. So they might have Lee Brennan back as well, which would be a huge addition. So is there any other teams as well you look at kind of further down in Division 3 or 4 that you'd be keeping an eye on? Any teams you think that could be like a surprise package or anything like that?
There's a few teams, all right. I think Derry will be a surprise, in my opinion. You look at a few of the Schlock players, and a lot of their players have now returned from Australia, and they have a full-strength side there now. The likes of Conor Glass coming back from Australia, and Chrissy McKay staying around and not retiring. I think Derry under Rory Gallagher now will be a huge threat going up the divisions. I think if you look down the south in Division 3, I think that'll be very competitive. The likes of Wicklow, I know they got a hammering off Meath, but maybe they've learned from that. Limerick, as I said, they're very good size. The likes of Sean McSweedy there. Killian Fahy is definitely one to watch, in my opinion. Tipperary, obviously Munster champions, and Munster champions for a reason, on merit. And the other team, Offaly, I think have a good few young players coming through. The likes of Cian Farrell, the likes of Cian Johnson, Jordan Hayes at wing back. They have a very good side, and John Mahan, obviously, as their manager. And I've seen them in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They look a very good side, very well drilled. And up the north, going back to that, I think Derry and Cavan will be the top two teams there. I don't know about Fermanagh. I know they have a few young players coming through, and more young players were brought in because of the COVID cases there as well. But in Division 4 then, I think Antrim are the team you look at, or any team up the north, to be honest. You look at Louth under Mickey Hart now, Sam Roy, outstanding footballer there. Leitrim, I think they'll be gunning to get back under Terry Hylands. Ryan O'Rourke is an outstanding player there. Keith Byrne. Yeah, Leitrim have a good few talents there. Sligo, you have to feel Tony McEntee coming in there. It's a while since Sligo at the top. I don't know what's gone on in Sligo over the last few years. Maybe it's just retirements like the likes of Adrian Marin and Mark Breheny over the years. And maybe lads like Red Oak Murphy have to step up for Sligo. But I think the teams to look out for would definitely be Derry, Limerick, and possibly Offaly, in my opinion.
Yeah, Derry under Rory Gallagher. Like Rory Gallagher, especially in the National League, he's when you look at what he done with Fermanagh, like I was speaking to Darren McGurn on the podcast not too long ago, and he was even saying, you know, they were literally one win away. And I even look back at, you know, some of those games, and I even look back at just some of the results, and they literally were probably just one win, maybe even a draw away from promotion to Division 1. It's kind of mad how it all swung around, and now potentially they could be going down to Division 4, but I suppose we'll kind of have to see how it does pan out. And yeah, Wicklow and Leitrim, Offaly, like I look at them all kind of in the same breath. I think either of them could easily cause a shock with Tip as well, you know, and potentially get into that top two. So it's definitely going to be very interesting, all right, no doubt about it.